He's actually going to be on the Li Ming this game, Trixler.
That's going to be a very important one, especially when you have a Crowan on your team. You're
Yeah.
going to see him playing Li Ming, but here on the right side, in the red, Mopsio and ETC, Link to play Deckard Cain, Blackidney on Greymane, DAB on Hanzo, and Bodyboss on Blaze. And this is a great sign here for the Leftovers. I'm not going to lie, I was a little bit disappointed with their performance yesterday. Granted, they fell down to Dignitas, 2-0. You can see that happening, but their match against the one that Lily picked on BOE really threw me for a loop, and they only have 3 more matches left in this group. They need to get wins, so them pulling out these favorites of theirs is something that I needed to see.
Well, HEROESHEARTH is going to dictate the pace for the first few seconds as they get some early push. That will bring up Blackidney, as well as Link looks to be rotating up. We'll see how long HEROESHEARTH sticks around. With this composition, it's really hard to say they're going to play this way or they're going to play that way. Clearly, they're going to be looking for kills. It's just a matter of how quickly can they rotate, how much information does Leftovers have. I mean, an ETC is great and all, Trixler, but he's one of the squishier tanks that we have. If they get the right type of CC lockdown on him, he could also be a liability.
Yeah, he's certainly one of those heroes that has now become one of these relegated anti-divers, knocking people back when they come for the engage, trying to watch for Genji to overstep, try to power slide him in the back line so you can focus him down. I do like how HEROESHEARTH opened up the map, though, by putting 3 in the top lane. They forced Leftovers to respond to them in some way, and that allowed for them to find a way for someone to get picked off that was rotating in, but Leftovers, realizing the threat that is available here for HEROESHEARTH, played it safe. Crowan going for a bit of a cheeky play here.
This feels like I'm in one of my brawls right now, where it's like, guys, they're on the well, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, this is competitive. We actually can't respond to that to Genji, so that will go down. It's a point of contention that for a lot of teams, if you haven't seen this really started to spring up a lot in Korea this year. You use the Genji, has the mobility to get in and out. When you see those first Immortal phases, it's normally drop back, tap that well, because it's the closest point of retreat, it's the closest well. You take away one strength or one potential asset that you have for your team. It's nothing major, but it can have an impact in the right moment.
A lot of teams try to respond to that Genji by pulling maybe 1-2 people down to try and defend that well, but Leftovers say, okay, it's too late, we already realized the Genji's going to take the well, and they take the Merc Camp in the top instead. And that allows them to get some pressure here in the top lane, but this play in particular from Crowan by taking down that well is going to hurt the Leftovers. Leftovers are one of these teams that love to bounce back and forth in a team fight. They love having their taps available. They want to trade out resources. So that not being available is actually a massive play here for HEROESHEARTH here. So I'm hoping it's going to work out for them, as Leftovers around the middle of the Immortal phase is going to have a difficult time trading out.
Well, you said Immortal phase, it's time, because 30 seconds from now, we will get our first phase. Hanzo really picks up that power spike at level 7, does have the bonus damage at level 4. It's a matter of if it stalls out, which more recently, Trixler, it feels like some of these BOE games have stalled out a little longer, and when you're a Hanzo, you're more than willing to be like, I'm okay with biding my time. I'm okay with waiting until 7. But HEROESHEARTH, with their composition, they at any given moment, they can say, nah, we're going. And when you have that Zeratul Genji with a Brightwing to potentially phase shift in, it makes it a scarier prospect to push forward at all if you're Leftovers.
You would expect that aggression if you are Leftovers, and they'll be keeping an eye out for it. And someone that has to be watching for it is Mopsio, the tank. You want you to get your eyes on top of that Genji. You want to know where exactly Li Ming is. Zeratul is someone that you can kind of dance around until level 7 hits with that wormhole. So we're going to watch Mopsio and make sure that he is zoning well in the middle lane. In fact, we're just grouping up here with Bodyboss, and Leftovers are trying to race down this Immortal. They know they have the tools here, and as long as they keep an eye on the mentioned heroes, they should be fine.
That rotation by Leftovers, and that's a very nice one. I think that's one thing people are going to have to keep an eye on is Mopsio. Just that face melt into the stun. That's why Diablo can be so strong here, but Mopsio, one of the best at being aggressive and finding those small mistakes, finds that stun there. It doesn't amount to a lot now, but it could add up to more later. Nice blink out by McIntyre there.
That was close to it. McIntyre gets hit with that power slide. He dodges it. That's going to be a scatter arrow to his face, and Greymane hopping in to get the kill. The race continues for both of our teams, and it seems like just barely Leftovers might have the slight advantage. Greymane bringing in those auto attacks with the help of Hanzo will net them an Immortal with 2,800 shields.
Nothing crazy, but it's important to note that if minions are able to push with the Immortal, Li Ming landing skill shots on the Immortal is where you're defense comes in. It's not like Genji is like, hey, look at me, I can defend an objective coming at me. So making sure to clear those minions, keep control over this, and that's an example right there. The minions aren't there yet, so Li Ming gets some early damage in on this Immortal for defense.
What I really enjoy about this Brightwing pick is that HEROESHEARTH is keeping Brightwing actually in the top lane, and Leftovers is known to have Potty Bus come in for rotation and flank behind the fort and try to get a kill. Brightwing at any point can come in and help their teammates and
there it is.
Provide healing. Here comes that flank from Potty Bus, but Brightwing is too late. The moment that you see that Potty Bus is gone, you clear out the backline minions and you make sure Brightwing there is in time, because if not, Leftovers are going to take a kill. They do it time and time again on this battleground, and it gives them a fort.
That, I mean, you called it. It was picture perfect. Now they have a full level lead. Leftovers, you know, we've seen the Korean teams execute that for so long on various battlegrounds, but Leftovers added that to their repertoire, and that's what makes them so strong. Perfect rotation, and that's one of the things. Brightwing, Trixler, does not have that great of wave clear. The Blaze, however, he's like, look, fast, clear. I'm not missing anything. We're actually doubling down on XP. We got the fort, we got the kill. I don't miss out on any minions, or very few at that. So very good job.
Leftovers having to deal with the fight though from HEROESHEARTH. As HEROESHEARTH fights back, and Nurek goes in, and Greymane gets locked down, so Black Kidney will be the first to fall for the Leftovers. Potty Boss and Moptio thinking about going for an engage. Can they hit this big jet propulsion? The answer is no. HEROESHEARTH splits up and says, let's back away.
Trixler, HEROESHEARTH, it feels like it's early in the game, but they needed that. They need to get their feet wet a little, get that first kill, but also that full level lead. When you look at that race towards 10 for the next Immortal, you do not want to get down to a Hanzo, because he's like, look, it's 10 to 9 3/4. I can use that small time that you're soaking for 10 to get half the Immortal down. That's how strong a Hanzo is on this map.
I'm actually just very excited to see that HEROESHEARTH isn't relaxed. Even after getting that kill against Greymane, they were very aware of what the strength of Leftovers was, and that's Moptio following up a power slide off of a jet propulsion. If it hits 2 to 3 people, you know Leftovers will take that 4v5, and typically they get those kills. So HEROESHEARTH not playing relaxed, but they are hurting in the experience bar right now. About a half a level behind as we move towards that level 10. They'll have some room here to maybe force a fight or go to the halftime show, but as we continue to tick towards 10, they need to be aware of that.
Shaman camps will be spawning around the same time that the Immortals spawn. See, depending on the placement of this and the defensive nature of some of these teams, there's going to be the burrow charge in, the stun, the poly, the follow-up. Moptio's like, look, that's all you got. It's time for me to go. He puts himself in position, doesn't have the backup, but very well played by Leftovers.
Okay, Immortal phase begins. Immediately Genji runs the top side here, starting to defend his Immortal with the help of Brightwing. Now looking at that Greymane, who is trying to retreat. Potty Boss is going to help him out, and they should be able to back away. But again, that 10 is ever looming here. So HEROESHEARTH needs to make a play. Either find someone to fight or get on that Immortal. BBJ, though, eats a power slide.
Yeah, he's in there. He is in there deep, and you can see Zeratul is as well. He comes in. You get the Genji follow-up. They're looking for another one. Swift Strike goes through Potty Boss. It's a 2-for-1 trade right now. Polymorph over onto Moptio. The combo lands. That's going to be a triple now here for HEROESHEARTH. Excellent execution. Nice follow-up there from that back line of Crowan and Homicidal.
A very expected form of aggression from HEROESHEARTH Esports pays off, but I'm a little bit disappointed that Leftovers gave him that opportunity. The power slide onto a Brightwing before level 10 around their Immortal phase gives them the chance there for HEROESHEARTH to fight back, and they were able to nail that team by getting multiple kills, and Leftovers are now left with the consolation prize of grabbing their camp here to push in the top lane and setting up for the next phase.
Well, with 10 picked up, this is when the show begins. Dreadnought hit it in the analysis. He said, look, post-level 10 is where they really come online. There's no doubt about that. The VP to isolate somebody, Brightwing coming in at any given moment. We actually have the blink heal to make the plays, but the cocoon, isolating targets is the name of the game, and they have enough firepower to take out whatever target they choose. And Leftovers will see if they can have the proper response, because one of those is going to be that bunker there for Potty Boss.
HEROESHEARTH does have the ability to get that isolation, but Leftovers, if they get too isolated here on HEROESHEARTH, can turn around with that kill from Greymane. Here comes an arrow from across the map. Moptio going to land the mosh pit. Greymane, though, the one to fall as HEROESHEARTH gets the kill, and they VP the bunker as everyone jumps out. Will they have the follow-up?
Yeah, that was very well played there. I think the Immortal actually got the stun on that mosh pit, so unfortunate. There's going to be the stun directly onto the Immortal. Here we go. Here comes some damage. Down comes the X-Strike. That's going to give it to him. Now they're looking for more. Link, can he get behind? Homicidal says, no, you cannot. It is another trade out because Brightwing ended up falling, but we did see in that picture that fort also fell in the top lane with that Shaman can't pick up.
And that is the result of a reset composition. If you find one, typically you find more. Issue trying to slow down this Immortal race on the right side here, so HEROESHEARTH can take away the Immortal, and they actually lose out on it. Wow.
Wow. 5.
Hanzo and Greymane. They're pretty good on this battleground.
Yeah, you know, they can do some damage, I hear. This is Fireworks. It's 7 to 3 in kills. But Leftovers has managed the first 2 Immortals. They also have the first 2 structures of the game down with the top and bottom 4. The Immortal will spawn down here in the bottom lane. Not a heavy shield, so you have to be careful on how aggressive you get, because this is a team. This objective is very different. It's very early. We could get the dive behind. You can actually see a Nubrak already there in that bush waiting to see if there's an opportunity.
What we're really seeing here and witnessing is the strength of a team fight competition versus an objective-based competition that Leftovers have. Them grabbing that camp earlier, got the fort in the top left. The fort in the bottom was already taken, so them being able to snag this away just barely gives them a keep wall. So while they might be behind in kills, they're opening up this map substantially over what Heroes Hearth Esports has. The good news for Heroes Hearth, late game is pretty darn insane for them. Level 16 Zeratul and Nubrak Mine Isolation you were talking about. They already have a plan with the VP on the bunker if they can outplay that, and they've seen what Leftovers are trying to do. Group them up on that bunker, hit a Dragon's Arrow, and then have the Mosh Pit follow up. So now that they've seen that game plan, they can adjust.
Big talent at 13 is going to be that Ancient Blessings for Link to be able to pick that up. You get isolated if Deckard's around somewhere. Maybe it's enough to keep the healing alive, but it can also be used as an offensive engagement tool. It's almost like a mini heroic, the amount of damage that it can put out. So all it takes is those auto attacks to go out. So for Leftovers, they do have very good, I think 13's probably the biggest spike when you look at Deckard in terms of what he brings to the team offensively and defensively. But as you said, Heroes Hearth does feel like they have a very strong late game comparatively, because Leftovers, they have a very good early. That Hanzo post level 7, that's where he, for the map, that's where he's there. Greymane strong throughout. So it's going to be a fun one to see as this game goes on.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, look at Hanzo, you get the pierced arrows at 16, which is, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm going to go with this, stupid to play against. You walk into so many pierced arrows, nailing you, and of course hitting the Immortal at the same time. And then of course Greymane has the ability to move an alpha kill if he really wants to. I don't know if you need to go that route here in particular, especially against a competition for Heroes Hearth Esports, but the idea of burning down someone based on their health is always an option for you. ETC as well finds a couple of towns at 16 that gives him either more armor, of course, he can try to slow down that back line. Lots of things available for the Leftovers too to match against what Heroes Hearth Esports has, but I'm looking at McIntyre, a guy that has been an all-star for Heroes Hearth Esports in their entirety of being a roster. If he gets that power to get that multiple cleave at level 16, I could see them cleaning up the Leftovers in the fight, but Leftovers at the same time trying to find the isolated pick set if they see Heroes Hearth Esports spread out a little bit too much.
The final cut plus that 16 for Zeratul, it's very frightening. You can see, get some early damage in, does Heroes Hearth. They're zoning around. My favorite thing about this is Ishbu's positioning. He's constantly like, look, I'll let you guys be here. You all have mobility. Everybody there can blink or dash somewhere else. I've got my own mobility at the blink of an eye. Let's just go. Let's fight. Ishbu's actually living on the wrong side of the map right now, and he does not care.
Just sitting on the side next to the Immortal. Has those better barbs if he needs to slow down the opponent from coming in. That level 4 pickup in. He also has the added shield at level 7. So he should be fine if he needs to get out. He can call upon Brightwing. You see both teams being very cautious right now.
This positioning is weird, man.
Yeah. We need Leftovers when we step up a little bit, but they're trying to, wow, they actually hit Hami, and Blackini goes in. He goes in for the go for the throw, but the heal from BBJ at the last second. They might be able to turn this around.
Yeah, I'm surprised he lived there. Blackini, now he's in trouble. Tries to get the trade out, does not, but Hami, he's stuck in there. In comes McIntyre, trying to get some damage down, but bunker down in response, and now with the bunker down, you can see DAB trying to get out of there. Link trying to buy space. X-Strike comes down directly on, but maybe Kron overextended. He's in trouble.
Nah, he's able to start out, but at the same time, look here, we have Brightwing in trouble, and she gets power slided right underneath the Immortal, so Leftovers bite back with their own kill, so a total of 2 have been picked off as Li Ming was also destroyed. This gives an opening for Leftovers to turn around and start to race down the Immortal. But initially, I can't believe Hami lived there, and that's the strength of Brightwing. If you can get there in time, you drop a fat heal on your teammate.
I think that BBJ might have blinked in onto Kron right as he swift struck out, because I'm like, how does BBJ get there? And it's unfortunate there. Sometimes the best play sometimes will come back and bite you there. But now Leftovers, as you mentioned, with this Hanzo are coming in. I don't know if that phase shift is yet available. We'll find out momentarily as Brightwing coming in, Trick.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. It's going to be a Swift Strike. Man, 1 reset. Second one about to come in as well. Blackini and crew trying to get out the damage here on top of the Immortal. Bahami taking a bit of a beating. He is able to cut away. Blackini finally gets picked off. And that's going to be another reset here for Li Ming.
These blink heals are money right now. Nubrak, they're trying to track down Mopsio. Nobody got the CC in just yet. McIntyre will get the cleave. Doesn't have that 16, but 2 kills now will buy time and space for Heroes Hearth. A chance for them to maybe pick up their first Immortal.
Heroes Hearth really delivering on what this composition does. Get in the middle of the fight and pick a target, and everyone puts their damage on top of it. Multiple pickups coming in, and Leftovers, who are starting to win the race for the first time this game, might actually lose it to Heroes Hearth, but they want to make a stand. They step in. Here's a bunker burning down Hami on the back left, but finally the Immortal will fall, and Heroes Hearth gets their first of the game.
I think it's time for them to take a breath. They've got the Immortal. They've got 15 3/4. They've got a full level lead. They'll have 16 momentarily. The shield's nothing to write home about. But if they can regroup, recollect themselves with this 16, they can start to threaten a keep. It'd be very low percentage they could threaten core, but threaten keep with this style of composition and the 16 is very much a real threat, but they've got a lot to get through before they get there.
I mean, the best part for them is they've had Brightwing Global Soak throughout all these phases of the Immortal phase, and they also have not taken down any forts yet. They have an experienced lead already, so they can jump up massively here by taking down this forward, jump up to 16 3/4, and build their way towards level 20. Leftovers, on the other hand, are going to have to play the retreat game, play defensively, and clear this up with a couple of scatter arrows. So Heroes Hearth, now a 16, the big power spike we were talking about moments ago, are in the commanding lead against a team that is just trying to hang in there.
Here comes Brightwing. We saw McIntyre go in, get some poke damage in. Only the keep wall down thus far, but that has amassed almost a 2-level lead. Now that goes down, it is 17 to 15. So Heroes Hearth making some strong plays here in the mid game. Leftovers still has so much firepower on their side with this Hanzo and this Greymane. But Ishbu and team, they're looking for a flank here, Trick.
Ishbu gets in the bush on the right.
Well, that interrupted.
DB in trouble, gets picked off, and that's B1. Here comes the X-Strike. The VP comes out too, but Link hoping to keep his teammates alive, put them to sleep.
Bunker down in response. That's basically a detour, so to speak, because they were able to get out of there. But that pathing, the bait there by Heroes Hearth, but the interrupt on that agility by Hanzo was enough to keep him locked down midair. And the priority target, as you said already, Heroes Hearth, they're looking that one target and they all in, because if they get that one, there's multiple resets, so you can directly go to another.
I mean, they bought themselves 20 seconds each time, and that will get them, what, a quarter, half HP on top of this keep. You have that mirror ball shelling away there from Hami, protect him, and you should be fine. They do need to be careful and start backing away when Hanzo spawns. That Dragon's Arrow is always something you need to be worried about, and if you suddenly get knocked into the keep range, you get a slow put on top of you, suddenly you're throwing the game. So Heroes Hearth backs up, takes what they have earned, and from here we'll set up for the next Immortal phase.
Heroes Hearth, they got value out of the Shaman camp during the last phase. The top-bottom position, so the defensive side, when you're looking at it from this mode, the shield is always going to be the representative of the blue team. That's the one they're defending. They're going to be attacking. So it's very interesting for Leftovers now, because they'll have to respond to this bottom lane, which is also on their offensive side. So it's an advantage for Heroes Hearth, but at the same time, Leftovers has made a very good counterplay by getting not just the Shaman camp, but the Impaler camp in the top lane.
That'll push. That will require the attention of Brightwing, but as you mentioned, that bottom lane pushing in for Heroes Hearth is going to be a difficult task for Leftovers, and they don't have a global, so they have to commit to the idea of clearing that out, and they do. This will give Heroes Hearth a halftime show, but now Leftovers, they gotta make the play. They gotta drive their way on in here and try to force Heroes Hearth Esports to get to a tussle in the middle of the map, and they have the tool to do it. Wait for that Dragon's Arrow. It's gonna be the major thing that opens up for the Leftovers.
Well, Leftovers, they find themselves halfway down in this, which means that Heroes Hearth says, wait a minute, we might be able to raise Mopsio, moving forward, trying to find an opportunity. Podyboss and team, as Blakitny goes in, swift strike out, will move away. McIntyre and Ishbu at the top right of your screen. They are flanking, looking at 16 power spike of Zeratul now online. They have to be very careful as DAB starting on this and Ishbu and team starting to make their way over.
I love how Heroes Hearth is playing this. Typically when you are in this situation as the Leftovers, you put 4 on defense and you try to get either Greymane or Hanzo on top of the Immortal. But you can't pull that option off because of Zeratul and Brightwing threat jumping and turning a fight into a 2v1 in the snap of a finger. So they have to be careful. They have to group as 5 and kind of peel back and forth in this tug of war, which Heroes Hearth Esports is making sure to contain. You see this big concave they've built around Leftovers, waiting for them to make a mistake.
Yeah, Hami is just poking when McIntyre last engaged onto DAB. Took him down to about 40% health by himself. You can't afford that. Nice blink out by Hami. Dragon Arrow just missing. In comes Brightwing. We might be looking for a fight as Leftovers very deep in Heroes Hearth territory.
McIntyre, big cleave coming off as well. Goes in with the wormhole. The stay a while and listen will come out. There's the mosh pit, knocking multiple members down into the Immortal. Will it knock him back? Boom! There goes Zeratul. And next will also be a Nubarak. The bunker to come out just for good measures. Leftovers trying to fight back, but suddenly Crowan is going off. There's 1 kill and there's 2.
The resets are here. Let's see if they can get more. The switch strike through. Crowan trying to stay alive. X strike over will keep him alive for now. BBJ comes in with that blink heal. You know they are looking for those resets. Did not go flow like water at 13, instead went Shingun, so didn't quite have the capability of going back in, because that was a perfect Swift Strike.
I can't believe Heroes Hearth was able to turn that around. Rowan able to find the big Swift Strike there. I felt for sure Leftovers had won that entire fight, but Leftovers, due to losing a couple, move over and grab what they can on the Immortal. The good news for them, there is a fort in the top. The bad news for them is Heroes Hearth is going to be pushing in a lane and building towards level 20.
The 20 is the main thing about this. See if they split maybe Brightwing off to push bottom. I think at this point, you have to full commit here. Anubarak and Zeratul still a long ways away. Hanzo with the race still works in the defensive side of things. So the aggressive part of the dive of Zeratul and Anubarak, it's absent for this push. But when this fort falls, you'll see about 19 and about 3/4, maybe a little less when this comes in. But once the towers go down on this keep wall trick, that's when 20 picks up.
Yeah, the towers will be popped off. The keep will be taking some damage too, and suddenly Repulsion comes line at level 20, and Zeratul's going to jump in there and force the fight. Leftovers are trying to make sure to clear this up, but they are also making sure they don't lose anybody. If they lose 1 to 2 members of resets, coming in from Heroes Hearth could be game ending.
Gate down, sidewall down. It is all floodgates are down. Heroes Hearth with 20. Will they move forward? Switch strike in, trying to make the plays. Linked with a nice response, but Greymane actually gets blown up there. Crowan in return. Dragon Arrow's going to land. X-Strike comes down right as the bunker's there. Ishbu trying to isolate one. That's going to be a second member. And right now, Heroes Hearth, they're looking to close this out.
BBJ is getting so many resets on top of that polymorph. They go for a third member. DAB down as well. Only Podibus and Mobsteel to stand firm here on top of the core. And they're not going to have enough damage here to take out Heroes Hearth Esports. They turn around and focus down the core, and it will begin to drop. Our North American versus Europe matchup is going to result in Heroes Hearth Esports getting the first win of the series.
They got off to a fast start in the kill department, but Leftovers got the first 2 Immortals of that one, but it wasn't enough for them to build a big enough lead because Heroes Hearth, they stayed steady, they stayed strong, and they stayed aggressive, Trick. And when they were aggressive, that play by McIntyre, the Zeratul play, late game Zeratul, man, he's really scared.
I guess still have to shut out Crowan, man. When they were in a 5v3, he had the mentality to look at that fight and say, you know what, I can still get a couple of resets in here. Goes in for 1, gets a kill, goes in for the second, then Swift Strikes out, barely escapes away from the fight, netting that Immortal for them that won them the game. Had that not occurred, Leftovers would have healed up fine. You got Decker Kane providing potions, and they would have easily taken that Immortal, and then of course started to rush down that game.
Awesome play by everybody, and we've got an awesome desk who's going to break that game down for us because it was great.
Oh, yes, it was. Kaldor asked me, but what if the Brightwing didn't work? I counter with, but what if it does?
Oh, no. When I ask you, you really just were like, oh, well, probably not. But yeah, you're allowed some gloating now.
Yes. Well,
That
now
was well
I will.
played.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, I'll be the bigger man here. No, but seriously, that was a phenomenal game.
Yeah.
It was so good.
And I mean, coming back to Brightwing just for a second, that one save that we saw when we saw the attack towards Liming, that was just absolutely fantastic, nearly taking Greymane down. But Heroes Hearth in general, just fantastic execution. We talked about how volatile that draft can be, how you have to find these kills, and the way they dissected Leftovers was incredibly impressive.
You pretty much just have to open the fight with near, surgical precision, it feels like. And as long as you do that, you have a high probability of being able to take it from that point. And I feel like when we look at North America, we go, these compositions are the ones that fall apart the fastest. And to see Heroes Hearth Esports with Homicidal here on this roster and execute that well against Leftovers, I feel I'm very impressed here with Heroes Hearth.
Well, thankfully, if you have to do surgery, a Genji Blade's a pretty good way, I would say, maybe to do that. It's at least probably pretty sharp, but I agree. The teamwork, knowing, especially a team that has been known for a long time for their synergy, that Homicidal can come in and be able to set things up for them just as much was great to see.
And I mean, you look at the composition and you have the it's not only that entire explosiveness and how fast they can kill someone, but you have a Liming and a Genji to capitalize through resets. And we saw towards the end, for example, a team fight where it didn't really look good for Heroes Hearth. They lose 2 very quickly, but then the first kill gives over the reset and immediately they get an even trade out of it. So that mechanic there worked so much in their favor, and it made and broke that comp.
Yeah, and I'm going to highlight some of the advantages and some of the cool things that we saw here from Heroes Hearth Esports really quickly. And the context here to keep in mind is, again, how fast they have to be able to open up these skirmishes if they, in fact, want to win. So we're going to move forward here, and we talked a little bit earlier about some of the teamwork and finding ways to work Homicidal into this squad. So I'm going to point out here really quickly that we have Homicidal coming in. Brightwing just ended up resurrecting at the top half, and she is going to look for a teleport. The biggest thing to be looking at is Crowan's positioning up here, while we see Zeratul will eventually flank into this shrub, and they all capitalize on the fact that Homicidal walks up, drops a nice wave of force, puts Linked directly into the stun, and when it's all said and done, just collapse one shot, and then great play from that point on from BBJ to make sure that the team actually gets, there's the wave of force, sorry there, and ends up getting the stun. There's a collapse with the Zeratul, kill over top of the wall. And this is what they have to do. And because of this, this is the only reason Heroes Hearth can win this skirmish afterwards. BBJ, clutch heal 1, clutch heal number 2, drop himself a nice stun there, and they are able to recover. And that's why you said, when I was like, what are the problems possibly that exist with this composition? I was like, the bunker is going to be a problem. And you're going, well, the Brightwing is. Normally, Brightwing is in fact that problem if you can't do what we just saw them do right there. That was very well done by Heroes Hearth.
The next problem is that Heroes Hearth also had some moments where they could really capitalize on positional mistakes. So you see that Deckard, and you can definitely argue that he was way too far forward. He was basically on a line with the tanks there and should have been farther in the back, which would have made it impossible to get that wave of force into the stun. So there were a couple of moments throughout the entire game like this that Heroes Hearth just identified, immediately punished, and were leftovers with their composition, just simply didn't position themselves well enough or got caught.
Right. Well, we are going to have a quick word from our sponsors. After that, we'll have Game 2 between Leftovers and Heroes Hearth.
The 2018 HGC Finals are brought to you in part by Republic of Gamers, Corsair, T-Mobile, Samsung SSD, and NVIDIA.
Leftovers versus Heroes Hearth. We talked about how urgent it is for Leftovers to, at the bare minimum, tie this series. Heroes Hearth is coming into this with a 2-0 win, though it was over Mind Freak, and Leftovers, we haven't seen them play versus Mind Freak yet, but losing a game to the 1 and then starting off with a 0-2 versus Dignitas doesn't set the stage for them to be able to ramp up maybe to where they'd like to be.
Yeah, and Heroes Hearth has now won 3 games against Leftovers already. We saw that same matchup at the Western Clash happen once. And in this particular setup, it's still the question, how do the Leftovers perform now that they all of a sudden are not necessarily the underdog anymore? They're all of a sudden a team that everybody looks to and says, like, you guys did great in Europe. How far can you go at BlizzCon? And there's a lot of pressure on them, as we talked before, and they seem to have some issues dealing with that.
Well, one person I want to talk about on the other side of the battlefield is McIntyre, because for as long as competitive Heroes has been going on Dreadnought, McIntyre has been trying just to make it to BlizzCon. From the Barrel Boys days, he's been trying to get here, and we know it is such a defining moment for him that he's here.
It is a honor to be able to see him get to this point within his career. How much time and effort he has put and how much he has grown as a human being, I feel like is amazing. And as you said, he has been since day number 1, like legitimately since I first signed up to a Reddit post to be like, I want to join a team. The first scrims are like McIntyre sitting on the other side. The guy has been around maybe even before me at this point. Like he has shown that he has given his time and his effort, and to see that rewarded with such a unique story here of Heroes Hearth climbing through Open Division, then through the ranks of North America, and now maybe a BlizzCon contender.
Yeah, he's seriously one of my favorite people in the Heroes team. Like, he's so kind. He's always willing to give an interview, to talk to you. He is just so passionate in how much he devotes to Heroes, and someone who shares that is Crowan, and we know Crowan has also been trying to get here to this point. So for Heroes Hearth, it doesn't end here. They really want to make it so that they can sit on the BlizzCon stage and play on the BlizzCon stage. But of course, Leftovers want to get there too. We're going to do the Battleground pool, but what would you like to say?
I mean, for me, it was also about Ishbu. Like, he's not only making the plays, but him and McIntyre, when you talk to them, the way that they bounce ideas off each other is just really refreshing, and you completely quickly understand how much they know about the game and how they take all the experience that they have. With, for example, that wonky meta that Octalis or Tempo Storm threw into the NA region, what they take away from that, how they look at it and say, okay, what can we incorporate, what should we incorporate, and where do we stick to the more standard style?
Yeah, Ishbu specifically was saying, we feel like North America for a long time has been willing to figure out different heroes that work, but Europe is able to figure out faster why it's working. So it was really important to them as they came into this event to examine exactly why things are working, so that they know the ins and outs of everything. Now we're going to Sky Temple, which is for Heroes Hearth not necessarily the most known pick for them. They don't usually pick this one.
It is actually a really big surprise to be able to see Heroes Hearth committing to the Sky Temple here. Immediately knowing a lot of what we see in North America, and again, Heroes Hearth is kind of on their own page, comparing that towards Temple Storm and what we saw for the rest. Normally you'd see heavy macro focus, but I have a feeling that we're going to see that comfortability to kind of brawl with maybe one off lane here for Heroes Hearth Esports. It's going to be exciting to see what they have in store.
Yeah, now we have the tanks actually left open, so we have still the possibility to go into Garrosh, into Diablo. The one hero that I'm still watching out for is also going to be that Tracer in the later end, though that's still going to be banned out. But we have leftovers starting things off with Genji.
response into the immediate macro focus there. Anubarak Greymane, that was the 1-2 we got from Tempo Storm yesterday on Cursed Hollow. A little bit different approach and far more forgiving on Sky Temple than it is any other iteration of Battleground. I think that's one thing to keep in mind is when I was shedding some of the doubt on the offlane split pressure from Greymanes on yesterday on Infernal Shrines and Curse, it's a completely different beast here on Sky Temple as long as there's no mule, which banned out there through the Abathur.
And now with Garrosh in play for leftovers, what we're immediately going to see is him trying to, or Mopsio trying to make those plays later with a good Warlord's challenge, getting that taunt and then setting DAB on the Li Ming up. So this is a map where in the past we've seen a lot of Tracer from DAB. It's actually one of those maps where he made a first name for himself, finding those kills in the backline. But his Li Ming, especially with a good setup, is terrifying and can be. So this is what we're gonna watch for DAB and Mopsio that in their play when they're trying to set a kill up. And then of course they now rely on that reset mechanic that was extremely effective for Heroes Hearth in the previous game.
I'm honestly really surprised that we see Garrosh and Diablo make it through, but Garrosh given up to the rotation that Leftovers got it in, being able to not even have to first pick it, considering how prevalent and well he's been doing at the tournament. But it's clear Heroes Hearth have an idea of what they want to do, right? With Anubarak, they can do fort dives. With Greymane, they have the chain crowd control with the Cursed Bullet potentially, but then also they can get really aggressive and try to get camps out on the board too.
But it should be noted that there is, though I do agree that surprise, I think Leftovers may be a little bit surprised too. Like, wow, we're able to pick up the Garrosh here. But now look at their first 3 picks. 0 macro focus. Right now, the 1-2 of Heroes Hearth Esports, now we get extra picks, have no focus on team fighting. So going to the Genji, Li Ming, and the Garrosh, 0 wave clear all across the board. I wonder if that is going to be a setback, because again, this is one of the few Battlegrounds that is going to be very forgiving, and Dahaka is a good tool to be able to help for that. But I think it is too little too late in this type of situation. The Dahaka, if Heroes Hearth opens in the way that they want, I think they'll be so far ahead that the Dahaka offlane is not going to be a matchup, especially when Zeratul trades pretty well into it.
I'm pretty happy with the Dahaka, to be honest. I feel like also the ban on the Brightwing, just first of all eliminating a global and also making sure that Genji doesn't have to be too careful when he starts to engage. Because one of the big things for Heroes Hearth was using Brightwing with a full spec into Polymorph Talons to make sure that they get their kills here. But now we have that traditional, like, trying to finish with the last rides. But I'm not too unhappy about what Leftovers got here. I feel like they're pretty happy with their draft. They have the reset mechanic. They can set up a kill with the Warlord's Challenge. Mobs in particular is going to be looking for that. For me, it's interesting to see that we have the Rhaegar over any of the other supports that could have been taken here on their side.
Last thoughts?
I agree. It's a little bit surprising to be able to see that for the Rhaegar, but I do think it provides a lot of opportunities, again, for that sieging and for that damage. Overall, I agree. The mouthfeel feels a little bit off, and now the Dahaka is going to be able to make up for that, but I do wonder if Heroes Hearth gets ahead in the macro like we saw Tempo able to do, does Leftovers actually even have the tools to handle it?
I'm ready for Bloodlust. I'm ready for it. Look at what they got.
It could with Void. It's one of the few viable opportunities to go Lust.
We've got to go to the commentators, but this is going to be a good one for sure. Let's see if Leftovers can bring it back and tie the series.
Bloodlust would be pretty darn cool. It'd be pretty high octane, which is something that it seems like North America's playing a lot of right now. I mean, we have, again, a Zeratul coming out here for McIntyre. Will he be able to do well again on Sky Temple?
All pressure, all the time, it seems to be the name of the game, and it's come in various forms between Tempo Storm and Heroes Hearth, but this is more of a Heroes Hearth style play. We've heard from them the way they've wanted to play during scrims leading up to this. It seems like they've developed a strategy, and so far it's been successful.
I mean, over in Europe, too, for this draft right now, looks pretty darn solid as well. They're able to slow down the game a little bit, have that global pressure that was so strong with being able to soak out a lane, and of course show up at the last second to make sure to force a fight around the temple. I want to know who's going to get ahead in this matchup on Sky Temple, because if they are able to pull it off, Heroes Hearth Esports here on the left, they might be able to have Greymane constantly pushing.
Well, they're going to see if they can do that. McIntyre back on that Zeratul. That seems to be one of the bigger threats, but Ishbu now playing Anubarak multiple times. This is something we didn't see a lot of in the North American scene, but they're doubling down here.
Here on the right side, Leftovers pulling out the global as mentioned. Mopsio on Garrosh, DAB on Li Ming, Blakitny on Genji, Linked on Deckard, and Polyboss to show off the Dahaka here. That reset composition, we saw how strong it was on BOE. And if you pull it off here on Sky Temple 2, a battleground that you typically find fights on around the temple face, you can make sure that you are getting those resets and taking your opponent down quickly. What I'm more worried about is how many mercenary camps Heroes Hearth Esports are going to pull up. I think that's why we got the Rhaegar to come in here, actually, because he helps so much at clearing up the camps and making sure you get that leverage in lane.
Well, the one thing that we learned from a team like Team Freedom, who unfortunately did not make it, was the Anubarak Greymane with a Rhaegar in this case. Rhaegar adding more to that split lane pressure. You mentioned the fights on the temple. North America showed us one thing, is that they don't always have to fight on the temple. They might look for something else elsewhere. And so we'll see exactly how they approach that as we go forward in this game.
That's why I like the Dahaka pick so much. So if Heroes Heart decides that they do not want to fight around the temple, you can easily throw over a couple on top of that temple there for leftovers, make sure that Dahaka splits out and gets on a lane, and make sure you're not falling behind in experience. We'll see what happens when that temple phase does pop up, but I'm keeping an eye on those giants that'll be spawning down the bottom left and the bottom right. Who will be peeling off to start working on those, and who will do it first? But there is a 3-man in the top lane pushing forward, and the leftovers are looking for a fight.
Yeah, Garrosh says, hold on a second, let's go. Mobzio, if he can track this down, he doesn't have the peel. Ishbu kind of already dipped on out of there. Kron, he's getting flipped around right into the stun, and they've basically left him on an island. Ishbu, I thought maybe he would be willing to walk into the Garrosh, get the auto, get the dismount, and get the stun. He does have the brush or the burrow charge out. Even if you get tossed in, you can just burrow charge right back out. I'm a little surprised at that. I think he maybe thought Kron and everybody else were already on the way out, but very, very good job by Mopsio to not give up.
Yeah, it seems like Greymane made the call, okay guys, I'm gonna die here, I'm gonna buy as much time as possible, jump on the Giants. And Malthael and Zeratul did that. They ran to the bottom left, got the Giants pushing in already, and now Heroes Hearth Esports is already starting that plan that we were talking about earlier. And one of the major plans when you're playing mercenary camps is what you do with the top left bruiser camp. Heroes Hearth Esports is grabbing it now, and they should be grouping up as a unit as 3 to try to break down a temple. If you can kill down those walls and get some damage on the fort, typically if you control the top temple, you take that fort without any hesitation.
Yeah, I think the part for me is how aggressive will Heroes Hearth, how quickly will the rotation be from leftovers, because you look at a Li Ming and you look at a Genji and the spell armor that comes up, and if you have minions mixed with this, which there's a minion wave just behind, then it does make it more difficult to take this down. But the threat of a Garrosh simply tossing you over is always scary. That's why we saw in North America, it was Junkrat used to be a very good solution to this. It's like, please come onto my wall. I'll have a concussion mine waiting for you. Garrosh is an excellent response as well.
I'm glad you point that out too. That's why a Nubrak is here. If you ever need to extend the duration that you're underneath the fort, you can always pop out beetles with your ability, which give you a little bit more time to take that fort and make the decision to escape or to find a kill. But leftovers, realizing the threat that Heroes Hearth Esports was posing in the top lane, bring multiple members to the top lane and clear that out. We do have Heroes Hearth Esports trying to push in the middle, and they'll get some damage here, but that major plan they went for has already been foiled.
Yeah, they did get some down, but they would need more, as you're alluding to get that full fort down. It's strong, but it's not that strong. Ishbu and team, they're going to hold for now, but now with Mopsio and team in that top lane, Heroes Hearth will turn their attention to the mid. They've got that Malthael in the bottom lane. The On a Pale Horse will be up for the quick rotations if they need it. Dahaka says, well, I've got a Z button I can press if I need to be anywhere immediately, but right now, there's no real threat for a team fight breaking out.
Yeah, if you look at leftovers in their composition, for them, they're totally content with a 1-for-1 trade. They don't really have the most wave clear on their composition. Surely we can clear it out with a couple of wars, but suddenly that's abilities that you're not throwing on top of heroes. They want to have Dahaka in a spot where he can try to double.
Mid lane.
Middle lane. So big push coming in. That's that Greymane we were talking about.
But with the Anubarak you were talking about, it's like, look, we got some beetles. It's going to eat these shots, and the last few temple shots will finish that. Ishbu, unfortunately, has to eat a few shots before those go through. Nice totem down by BBJ. Will buy some space. Right now, we've got a pause in the game. We'll get back to the action here in a moment as we get that squared away. But it was a very concise strategy. It's just, it wasn't flawless, Trixler, because that felt like that temple would have finished it off. They committed. That's where the Anubarak Greymane comes in. But also it's like, wait, Ishbu's taking one shot, another shot. It's like, can we get out of here now? We're going to find out when we get back.
That's one of the things that you wrestle with when you go for an aggressive play like that. Do you attempt to fully all in on the idea, leave your Greymane there, let him take out the fort, give time for the rest of your teammates to run away, or do you try to escape as a unit? And right now, they're going with the latter option, trying to escape as a unit. But there is a big flank coming in from behind them, and that pause is actually really unfortunate because we're about to have a major fight bust out here as Decker Kane was about to drop a scroll there on top of Greymane. If he gets locked down, I could see a kill easily popping in from Genji.
It's crazy because we've seen linked so many times on Deckard. The Western Clash, their run to the finals. I mean, it was a full team effort, but linked showing his name out there more and more. And when we were talking to these teams the other day, it's like, we just give Link Deckard and we know he can make plays. He doesn't even need to say anything. The slows that he's been landing, the root follow-up at the top, the thread he had previously against that, and now here, about to land some more, at least put the thread on there. It's very, very well done, and linked on that backside when he's on a Deckard seems to be a playmaker for this team.
He's a young kid with an old man's heart, that's for sure. He loves to tell stories and drop down those tornadoes, and he does it so well, as you were mentioning. The only thing I'm a little bit worried about here for leftovers is they left Garrosh on the top to finish off that temple, and he's the one that's going to help secure those kills, right? You want him to be able to follow up those scrolls that are coming in, so if he's slightly too late, we can maybe see Heroes Hearth get away, and that's what they're composition does so well. I mean, you look at Greymane, who has a Dark Flight, can get away from an aggressive play. You have the Zeratul, who can blink at the same time, and Newbeck with the Burrow Charge out. Rhaegar, he's a fast little feisty puppy. He's in his way out too. The only one that's a major concern is Malfield, but his job is to babysit Dahaka. So Heroes Hearth Esports, if they can continue to play around leftovers, this composition can definitely pay off. And on Sky Temple, when you get a fort advantage, you are loving having that type of composition.
Yeah, it seems like you just dictate the pace, dictate the rotations, and when you have that Greymane and Nubrak, I mean, just as easily as we'll see the second Temple, you might just see Heroes Hearth, depending on where the lead is or how this next fight breaks out. They might just say, well, we'll grab another camp and we'll push the top lane, something like that, and they'll just say, well, that's nice, have that Temple, we can get more work done because we have this sieging capabilities. So it's a very different feel that Heroes Hearth can pull out at any moment. For leftovers, I don't want to say it's one-dimensional because it's not, but it is a clear focus on team fighting.
Yeah.
The macro advantage just happens to be in favor of Heroes Hearth compositionally.
This composition is designed to capture them in the objective play they're trying to go for and then punish them for it. That's what Leftovers excels at. If a boss is started, for instance, for HHE, they have the ability to come in and try to force that fight. If they go for the Lornado, which I assume is something that we could pick up at level 10, especially with that boss being around there, you suddenly can get those resets coming in there and start to take the team fights. But HHE should be the smarter team when it comes to this composition. They want to play around their opponents. Now, for you guys at home, a quick update. We just had somebody disconnect from the PC, and that's why we're currently in a pause format. Nothing too major.
Yeah, we're actually going to take a quick break while we do get this resolved, but we will be back with more action with Heroes Hearth and Leftovers in just a moment. We'll be back. Stay tuned.
Hello, I am Ken Rasmussen, aka Zelia. I play on Team Dignitas. Last year I played offlane, and now it's a support.
I'm Poik, and I play for Team Dignitas.
I'm JPL, player for Team Dignitas.
I'm Wabi, and I play for Team Dignitas.
Welcome! What a surprise! Here we have it. Boom! The brand station. The absolute best part of the whole apartment. The plant. Actually insane how much it's grown. And I feel like every time we win an HGC match, a new leaf pops up.
My name is Joshua Bennett, my in-game name is Snitch, and I play range flex for Team Dignitas. Hello, I am Snitch, and welcome to my apartment in Cologne. This is where the magic happens. This is my desk.
One of the main things with this roster is we just had a feeling we were gonna have fun.
I just love esports, you know, I love competing, I love playing.
I've had so much fun trying to win and compete. I've always been competitive at spirit, you know, been playing badminton, but I was always striving to beat my friends. Me joining Dignitas was insane. They were my idols. I looked up and I respected every single one of them. I used to be the guy watching in the crowd at Gamescom, JPL jumping in on Muradin, completely reinventing the meta. Wow, look at this guy styling on stage. How does he have the balls?
Our team has been so hyper-focused on wanting to be the best, and I've had such a talented roster around me. I think for sure, you know, we've definitely sacrificed a lot of time and work into being the best, but having the teammates that I do around me is very motivating for me, and it has made it a lot easier to, you know, commit to these sacrifices.
Returning to BlizzCon after last year's failure.
Welcome back to the HGC Finals. It seems that we have our technical issues all fixed and ready to go, so we're going to hop back into the game. For those that are missing out or just joining us, we are in the middle of a series between Heroes Hearth Esports and Leftovers, and we are currently on Sky Temple, and we're about to see a team fight break out.
Yeah, some of those Anubarak Beetles apparently got locked into the system, and speaking of locked in, Blakitny gets locked in on kill number 1 there, and looks like he's going to find kill number 2. Is Ishbu in trouble? We get the Burrow charge out, but Linked and Mopsio will join him right there. We're going to have another quick pause there, as that's unfortunate, as those 2 kills came in against Heroes Hearth. But you know, it seemed like that was budding. No obvious 3-2-3. We got a quick audio issue. I'm sure this will be resolved quickly, but we did get the other issue fixed. We're just going to take care of one real quick before we get back into game.
Today we're playing whack-a-mole with technical issues. To take one out and the one pops up, and occasionally we'll do our best to get them all, and we'll go ahead and continue the series. But what we just saw was what we were talking about before heading into the commercial, is that we had a major play from Heroes Hearth Esports to take out the fort in the middle, but they had overstepped their welcome, and Leftovers got 2 kills because of it. And that's pretty massive, because the experience is now tied up for the 2 as we head into the next temple phase, which will be spawning at the bottom around level 10.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like that was a great play. If you get that fort and you get out, that's a great play. But the minute you start giving up kills, you miss soak, you give up XP in terms of those kills, and it can come back to haunt you in that. So the execution for Heroes Hearth, not as flawless as I think that they would have liked. And so now it's coming back, and it's kind of like a soft reset on the game. It's like, look, we had a lead, we kind of gave it up, and we just go back to, we got to find an advantage elsewhere if we're going to find one.
Yeah, it's such a basic strategy on Sky Temple to try and do as much as you can to squeeze out as much experience as you can to get to level 10 before your opponents for the second temple phase. Typically what we're trying to do. That opens you up into a boss play if you want to go that route, or at least you can take the temple on the bottom if you already have an infrastructure lead. And so those major losses that a Newbrack and Grayman getting picked up foils the entire plan that we had from HHG, and now puts Leftovers in a spot where if we head into the mid game, that reset composition is going to be on even levels. And when you're against a reset composition on even levels, it's always terrifying to get the fights that you want.
It's all it takes is one. All it takes is one, and you're like, oh, this went from, okay, we gave up 1 kill, maybe we can turn this around, or maybe we can survive, to, guys, I think we just lost multiple people, and there's a problem, you know?
The conversation becomes, hey, I died, either run or fight them now, and the entire time the opposing team is kill them, kill them, kill them. You know, they're diving towards your backline, taking you out, picking you off one by one. So Heroes Hearth Esports, when we come back, Grayman and Newbrack will have to make sure that they get in the lanes ASAP, we get back to those mercenary camps, and we try to get another advantage slowly creeping in, because Leftovers with these kills are starting to become a bit of an issue. Now, as we head towards level 10, let's talk heroics here. What do you think we're going to be seeing from Maltheo in particular? That last right trying to take out Garrosh?
I really thought about that, you know, when we had the downtime, because the last rights is always so good because it ignores the armor, gives you that percentage basis. I think we're about ready to go back in. But then you also the cursed bullet that could come in. So you curse bullet last right, somebody gets some extra damage in there. That might be the general focus. And I think that's one thing that it seems good in theory, but what we've seen from the likes of Deckard, who's been able to lock down a lot of this, there's no Blaze bunker to hop into, but Linked always seems to anticipate a lot of these things to deal with the aggression, but also have those heals already prepped and ready to try and deal with that. So he seems to be on top of his game, which makes it that much more difficult for Heroes Hearth.
I do like your point about going to the Curse Bullet into the last right and try to focus down that front line, but that is something that Leftovers is very accustomed to. They look at death as a resource. A lot of teams look at death as, oh no, I've made a mistake. Leftovers say, no, we pulled out so many cooldowns. Get in there and fight. So if we go that route for Heroes Hearth Esports, Leftovers will respond in kind, and if Garrosh can get enough cooldowns out, again, that reset composition will be looking for that 1 kill. Now everyone back on the field here, as top lane will be the one that continues to be focused here for Heroes Hearth Esports. Again, allowing for those Giants in the bottom lane to be another pickup for Heroes Hearth Esports, if Leftovers ever overcommit to defending top lane.
Well, we made that point about the last right's potential with that cursed bullet. We do see Touch of Death picked up by Maltheo, so if they're going to combo, it will require a lot. Crow, a nice cleanse there by BBJ. We're going to see the root onto a Newbrack. The Burrow charge out, but that cleanse there I think might have just saved Crowan.
You love it when a support gets that pre-cleanse in here, and DAB in the bottom lane finds himself all by himself. Tommy and McIntyre come in and clean him up, and that helps Heroes Hearth Esports. One, get that lane experience, but now Leftovers has nobody in the vicinity to soak up that experience. Heroes Hearth Esports is back on track getting 10 first.
Yeah, with that 10 advantage, you know they can play around this temple 15 seconds away. See what Leftovers' response will be. I saw in their playoff system, it seems like even when they were down, they were never even close to being out. They always find some dynamic around the battleground to find these macro advantages. Right now, they've got their camp, see how long they stay up there, because that is a Dahaka pushing. And like I said, just because you see somebody on the temple, it doesn't mean that they're willing to fully engage on the temple, as we already see that rotation in that top lane. looking for that top tower.
I mean, look at the top right now. HEROESHEARTH Esports is actually sharking around the back line. You have a member, Hami, in the top left, keeping the attention of Dahaka. So they use the Beetles to soak up the tower shots, and they just take out the fort. They are hoping to play around their opponents, and they pull it off. Its second fort of the game goes down for the Leftovers, and HEROESHEARTH Esports has yet to lose one themselves.
Welcome to North America. When you see the Anubarak Greymane, this is it. We're not done yet. You're going to give up this bottom fort, but that top lane, in terms of weighted experience, there's more value in 2 keep towers than there is in 1 fort, and this is where North America's always trying to do things differently. The Anubarak Greymane, this is something we've seen so many times in North America that you think that you might be a little more prepared for that, but then all of a sudden you find that 5-second window, and you're like, wait a minute, this is what they're doing. It's impossible to make up that ground and distance, so you just have to cut your losses, get the temple. It's not super bad for Leftovers, but it's just a calculated approach for HEROESHEARTH.
One of those cosmic brain moments. What if my opponent wants to get fights? What if I just don't give them fights? We'll just kill the forts instead. HEROESHEARTH Esports dropping the Wii Smarts here as they continue to dance around. But the issue with this battleground is eventually you're going to run out of those easy forts to pick up, right? You're going to have to dive heavily into enemy territory to get those keeps. So Leftovers, when they see their forts falling, what's the logical option? Either A, move across the map and try to get in a fight, but they're probably going to disengage, or B, take a fort for yourself. Leftovers did that in the bottom left, and they're actually trying to force HEROESHEARTH Esports to come fight them in some manner. They start an early boss, realizing there are multiple members in the top lane.
They are, but this is where I mentioned this before when we had that break, is that camp is in the top lane. This boss is nice, Trixler, but with that camp in that top lane, HEROESHEARTH will obliterate that top lane. And by the time they get through the keep, or at least mostly through the keep, they fall back. This is a 7-minute boss. By the time you get here, you better hope you take a fight. Leftovers is looking to do just that right now.
They do. Blackini goes straight in there. Dahaka has that brush sucker too. He can come around the back line. Here he is actually Potty Boss looking for that flank. They have to get rid of this Night Aura camp. Ishbu turns around and gets an impale on top of Potty Boss. Potty Boss turns around and tries to get a drag, but HEROESHEARTH, they're out. They skedaddle. They're done. They've done their damage, and they already have a Zeratul clearing up the boss in the bottom left.
Yeah, very good response by Leftovers. They cleared the boss quickly. They hearthed instantly. No interrupts there. McIntyre left in return. The boss is so weak at this stage of the game that it's nothing massive. Don't get me wrong. It's just a small advantage that you get. And after a while, the accumulation of those small advantages generally tends to win out, and it requires big plays to make up that gap. So right now, Leftovers, they're only a small bit behind, but you can feel the pacing in favor of HEROESHEARTH, at least for the moment.
One thing that I am enjoying about HEROESHEARTH Esports is Rhaegar pick. We were wondering why they moved that way, and of course there are some obvious answers. You want to get mercenary camps, you know, help bolster up that Greymane so you can push, but that cleanse has been such a big factor here for HEROESHEARTH Esports. Every time they commit to a global push or a push on the outside of the map, they make sure they have cleanse available. The only way Leftovers can force a fight is if Dahaka gets the flank and finds a drag so Garrosh can get up and get a toss. Every time, without fail, BBJ just drops a pre-cleanse and does not allow for that drag to connect.
This is another great rotation. HEROESHEARTH is doing everything but team fighting. They ignore it every step of the way. They said, all right, we know the Dahaka's on the top. We've sniffed that out, so we're going to go ahead and move mid. And then once the rotation, it's just that musical chairs. Leftovers starting to thwart a lot of these decisions with their own rotations. So very good plays being made by Leftovers at the moment. Zeratul showing at the top. It's almost impossible. HEROESHEARTH has nothing to retreat to. I'm loving some of these responses from Leftovers lately.
Who would have thought musical chairs, a game we played in kindergarten, would be so freaking frustrating? Leftovers having such a difficult time chasing them down.
Trixler, don't lie to the people. We played it last night.
And we did play it last night.
Yes.
It was some good times.
It was caster bonding. Oh, Blackitney, hello, that's a Swift Strike. You see if they identify that X-Strike out of there.
Yeah, but now Leftovers might be able to find their fight. Monster goes in, goes to the Groundbreaker immediately. Web is used. Ishbu wants none of that. They have back up. They still have a infrastructure advantage, and there's still temple shops in the bottom that we could have, but HEROESHEARTH is actually thinking about coming for a fight. I'm looking at Zeratul here.
Somebody's got to be like, hey guys, we got to get to the temple. There's still a few shots. Looks like Rhaegar's going to make that rotation down. As will HEROESHEARTH, or excuse me, as will Leftovers as they start to come down, but almost not enough time to get back here. BBJ, he's staying far and to the left, getting those last few shots. You don't have to stand on there the full time. You just have to trigger that last tick.
Starting to get some damage on that bottom keep. The top keep is already down about half health too. Leftovers trying to find someone here. They know that McIntyre's in the area. Blackini actually gets tossed in. McIntyre takes some damage here. He still has that VP. Will he use it to try and live? No. No panic VP.
He's like, look, buy as much time as you can. We're going to try and get the top. Potty Boss is like, look, we fell for this once. Yep. We're not falling for it again. Leftovers is starting to see through some of this, Trixler. It feels like the tides are turning.
And this is why the Dahaka pick was so instrumental here on Sky Temple. You have to make sure you have response in some way or a flank available, and Dahaka provides that. His presence just being in the top right corner made Heroes Hearth be a bit hesitant, especially after losing a member. If they can have a spot where Dahaka is able to attach himself to somebody and pull him closer, and Leftovers have had the time to come in for a massive flank, Heroes Hearth could be picked off. So they had to back away, and now Leftovers are starting to make their own strides as they move towards level 16.
16 for Heroes Hearth. Boss about a minute away from spawning. Top Temple will be there. If Leftovers is going to look for a fight, Heroes Hearth, we'll see if they give it to him up in the top here. Mopsio comes in from the flank. Another pause here. McIntyre, we'll figure out that issue momentarily, but you can see Mopsio and team, they're always looking to find that rotation, find those heavy rotations to look for a team fight.
Is this Puppies of the Storm? We got a lot of pause today. A lot of pause.
Oh my God.
You like that one, don't you? That was good. That was good.
I don't know how I feel about it, but I love it.
It's
I love
something,
it.
You know, you gotta feel the air sometimes. Well, we are moving to late game. It is 16 versus 16. The same thing that we saw in game number 1 is available for Heroes Hearth Esports. That's at Zeratul with that level 16 cleave, which will be devastating if they finally want to get into the team fight. And that's the beauty about this composition, is it's not fully about dancing around your opponent. When you get to the late game, suddenly you can go toe-to-toe against your opponent, especially if you find the isolation that we've been looking for.
Yeah, the Executioner now picked up with Greymane, but we have the Totem, as always, from BBJ trying to get that slow, and then you have the multiple stuns from Anubranx, so you have that, and you mentioned the Zeratul spike, so you have a lot of tools now with this 16 talent tier that do give you that spike, but then you also have Deckard who's able to lock people down, get that damage, the final cut, the mirror ball, there's so much, and then of course Garrosh, that just tossing people, getting the stuns, I mean, you can do that in any form or fashion, so there's a lot that's going to be going with that, I think, to really help. And so the power levels for these teams, they're starting to come online, and eventually, as you said, they're going to show themselves.
And one of the power levels that's been needed for the Leftovers is the ability to catch somebody. Finally is here. Dahaka with the elongated tongue. When you come in for that flank, suddenly you have that extra 20% range, and if you could just barely grasp someone, Rhaegar would be a great pick there. They finally can get that fight they've been looking for, because they haven't been danced around, and they've had some really clever flanks. It's just the speed and mobility available here for HHE has just been a little bit too much for them. So that 16 coming online is going to be helpful. If he can find that drag, Deckard's finally there for the follow-up. They can finally get that one fight. You mentioned it earlier. It only takes one, and Leftovers has been looking for that one the entire time.
I'm just wondering if we're going to see it. I mean, right now, if you caught it right before we went to this pause, the mini map, it does show both Malthael and Genji coming up from those soaking areas to potentially be there for that 5-on-5. So that is something that it could explode when we do get back into the game.
Yeah, there's two ways to do it. One, you call the bluff. You try to find a aggressive play on the opposing side. You jump into a bush and you pull back the 2016 Chinese bush meta and you finally get that pick. Or you start the next boss, which is about to be up pretty soon, and you force HHE to make a decision. Either A, push the top lane and finally take out that keep and maybe go start going for a core, or B, they come down and fight you.
Yeah, you bring up an excellent point, because there is a strategy involved that you just use your global. You put Dahaka at or near the top of that, you force the boss. You say, hey, look, we're on the boss. All of a sudden, you either have to rotate to deal with that boss, because this is a much stronger boss now, and then then you let it leash, and then you get that full tempo value, and nobody gets the boss. And if the other team starts that boss, you have that global to come down and fight. So Leftovers does have that. That's an excellent point you bring up.
Yeah, it suddenly becomes a spot where Heroes Hearth has to decide, okay, is this checkmate or is this just check? And they have to make the decision there, and they are hoping their bottom dollar they get the correct pick. Now, Mopsio coming in for another flank, but look at this, BBJ always having the tools to stop that flank. Here's a totem. Sit down, relax, calm down, Mopsio, you're not catching us.
I thought you were going to hit me with sit down, be humble.
No. But you got that one too. That's a good one too.
We were literally listening to it right before we came on, Trig.
Here comes the rap, man. I'm just too old. My ears can't keep up. I hear the beat, and that's about it, dude. The words just fly over my head, man. I can't stick with it.
All right, well, I'll tell you in the future. It's literally just sit down, be humble.
Okay, I like it.
We'll remix it later. But right now, Temple active in 5 seconds. Ishbu keeping an eye on things, does have that mobility. You need those heroes with the mobility to be able to sniff these things out. And the best one that they have right now is that Anubarak. You know, something like a Genji, somebody that can get away. Anubarak's going to fit that mold right now.
Tommy taking this top side here. will be able to hit himself against a Haka, but has to watch out for flanks. That boss has spawned, and leftovers are positioned around it, and they make the call. All right, Heroes Hearth, we are going to stare you in the eyes and say, do you want this? And
they're just going to backdoor core. They're going to backdoor core. They're going to. This is the thing. Once that goes down, you either full commit, but this is a risky call. Boss is sniffing this out already. Leftovers, you can see them already starting to back. The minion wave starting to come in. The Temple, remember, firing on that middle lane. Malthael is not here. They're going to force the back. So Mopsio shown. Boss is shown, and this is all a bluff. The problem is you have to get out of here, and even then, this boss at this stage of the game is a threat. But what this has done for Heroes Hearth is it's given them almost a full Temple value. So calculated plays. We saw it come out from leftovers. Heroes Hearth had a response.
And they have the defense. I mean, you have a Greymane. He's going to shred that boss to pieces. They might even save this keep here. Leftovers have to make the decision if they want to go down there and try to force a fight around the area. And they're thinking about it, already stationing in that bottom left corner, looking for any flanks that might be coming in. The Nubrak does get spotted, but Blakitny finally dashes in as he wants to make sure to protect this boss. They want this keep. They want to have an even trade on the field when it comes to infrastructure.
Well, you mentioned all it takes is one. If they do get more than the keep, they can get a kill. They can potentially end the game with those resets. We're going to find out right now. The boss falling for Heroes Hearth. It's okay to give up this keep. You got a keep and a half off that last Temple. Boss starting to fall, not strong enough to end the game. So Heroes Hearth, everything that Leftovers wants to do to fight, Heroes Hearth just said, we are not letting that happen. Now, no boss for a win condition. Trixler, 18.5 to 18.5. Double Temple coming up, and they are very close. This is really starting to build up the tension for this later part of the game.
Playstyles like this is the reason why we play Heroes of the Storm.
It's beautiful.
Two completely different compositions playing a map, completely different, and trying to find a way to overlap on top of each other. Leftovers not having the success they want, but they're sticking it together when it comes to actually taking down forts as well. Still a little bit behind because that middle keep in the middle here for Leftovers has taken some damage. So next Temple, if that's grabbed there on the top side and the middle side, will take that out. But Leftovers have put themselves in a position where they can continue to fight. They are on an even footing when it comes to heading into the late game, which is pretty insane to see.
We're now in a position as there's going to be the VP. One minor mistake can lose you the game. McIntyre got caught out in that last skirmish at that bottom, remember that? And now we're seeing a push. This is the death bridge. You do not want to get caught here. They get some early damage in. Every little bit counts in terms of experience and control because those temples fire on that. That is your lifeline. So that VP now down, still 80 seconds away before that is back. We'll see the Siege Giant picked up to deal with the catapults in that bottom lane. For Leftovers, they have a lot to deal with the catapults at the top.
Man, 2 temples spawning, 20 right around the corner. It's a pop quiz essentially. Are both teams ready for this end game? Leftovers already stationing right in the middle. The saving grace for them is having the Dahaka. It's been the saving grace for them this entire time on Sky Temple. Will Heroes Hearth decide to finally move in and try to engage? Do note, they do not have VP for 50 seconds. They used it as an escape earlier.
This is very tense right now. Ishbu, he's going to go ahead and see himself out, see if Mopsio can get the track down. There's going to be the root. That's going to miss. Zeratul was dealing, trying to get that soak in that bottom lane, trying to get to 20, because right now it's in favor of Leftovers. If that keep falls off of one of these temples, it's a different story. But in comes Dahaka. It's time to fight. And right now, Malthael caught out. Self-cleanse is going to be there. Uses that jump over. Ancestral's going to land. It's time to fight.
Here's the last right. It connects with Garrosh. Leftovers loses one, and the 4-man has to fight here, but DAB has to try to teleport out. But here's McIntyre with the big lead. He comes in on the back line. He hits Link. He's getting those resets. Ponybus trying to escape, but Leftovers, can they escape the grasp of Heroes Hearth?
Here we go. Stay a while and listen. We'll keep a momentary there. Blakitny trying to trade out, but that's going to be a second member down. Let's make it 3, and now Heroes Hearth, they're looking to close this game out. They got Greymane. They can go directly to core with those 3 kills, with the catapults coming in the top lane. Heroes Hearth, will it be enough? We are about to find out.
Heroes Hearth Esports for the Leftovers is going to be an amazing series for a lot of these people. The Leftovers is the team that brings that aggression to you, but Heroes Hearth has upped the ante here. They are looking to land this kill on the core. 19 seconds before Garrosh is even on the field. Greymane on the core is going to be destructive. BP used as well in that back line to make sure that Genji is unable to get any hits themselves. Heroes Hearth is looking for 3 points here in the HGC Finals.
Now with 30% falling, Heroes Hearth will do it as they go up 2-0. They will get those 3 points and send Leftovers in what could be an early tailspin. They have gone through the gauntlet in this early game. Heroes Hearth and Dignitas, both #1 seeds, are 2 of their first 3 opponents. It has not been an easy start, but they have a long way to go to get back into this.
But they've made some great strides already when it comes to group stages here. Multiple points